I, 29 male, am firmly child-free. I don't want kids. I never have. Growing up, I was forced to raise my younger sister because my parents were huge mess-ups. But I don't hold that against her because I'm mature. So, last week, my sister asked me to babysit her kid. I said no. I made it very clear that I had plans. While I do make really good money at my current job, I have a side gig that I also work from home, and it's important to me to make as much money as possible so I can pay off my house. So the other day, my sister showed up banging on my door, saying she needed me to watch her kid, my little nephew. I told her no. She begged me, saying her husband just got into a car accident and needed to go to the hospital, and I asked her why she couldn't take my nephew with her. She told me to quit being an idiot and just watch my nephew to help out a loved one. I reluctantly agreed, but then my nephew started acting up bad. I tried to put on a movie for him, and he ended up licking my DVD player. So I gave him some cat toys and told him he could just play with the cats. But the cats wanted nothing to do with him. So he got upset and knocked over one of my potted plants. At this point, I was frustrated because I wanted to get some work done. So I called my sister to come and pick him up. Unfortunately, she didn't answer, so I ended up calling the cops. The cop who showed up took my nephew to stay with my mom, but he made it clear that he thought I was an idiot. But I don't think I was, and I'm wondering if I should report that cop. But before I do that, I want to know if I'm the idiot here. Was I out of line? Am I the idiot? You are the idiot. For heaven's sake, your brother-in-law was hospitalized after a car accident, and you were asked to watch your nephew. So you called the police because watching a child in an emergency was interrupting your side hustle? You are a monster. Jesus. The kid was probably acting out because he's little, and his dad just got hurt. It's not like you were asked to watch him so your sister could get her nails done. There were so many other steps you could have taken before you wasted police time. You are the idiot. You didn't want to watch the kid, so you should have said no. Your sister told you her husband was in a car accident, so it's not surprising that she wouldn't answer if she were in a hospital. Instead of calling cops, why didn't you call your mother to come and pick up the kid? It was also an emergency. But like, dude, your brother-in-law could have been in bad shape, and maybe she didn't want her son to see that. Everyone's the idiot here. I'm not for a second saying calling the cops wasn't a massive overreaction. It was, and a ridiculous way to handle the situation. Not to mention downright cruel on the child, who was probably pretty damn freaked out with the whole situation. Still, I think it does make sense that he didn't call the mom if what he says about basically raising his sister is true. If he couldn't rely on his mom to care for him and his sister, she's hardly going to be front of mind asked to care for any other kid left with him. You are the idiot. For pity's sake, her husband was in a car accident, which sounded pretty serious. Not a great place for a kid, and your sister probably wasn't thinking straight. Also, you agreed. The child was not abandoned with you. You agreed to take him. I'm also very child-free and don't like kids, but I also understand that emergencies are different and would help look after kids if family needed me to for something like this. Please don't report the cop. You are wasting his time by calling them out in the first place, and I'm not surprised he had a little attitude towards you. A most important part of his story, hope he agreed. Not to mention, just based purely on what he described, the kid sounds aggravating but not an absolute unholy terror. What an idiot move to add this crap to whatever his sister and the kid was already dealing with given brother-in-law's accident. OP, you are the idiot. I often find that people who feel the need to proclaim that they are mature are not mature. About 10 years ago, a close friend of our daughter's came out as gay. This friend in particular slept over at our house so much that she was like a daughter to us. We even had a separate bed in our daughter's bedroom just for her. When we found out she was gay, my husband and I discussed whether we should continue to let her sleep in our daughter's bedroom or move her to the guest bedroom. We were hesitant, but we had a conversation with our daughter, who was 17 at the time, and she told us that even if her friend tried anything, she would shut it down because she was straight. It made sense. We believed our daughter was trustworthy and responsible, so we allowed the friend to continue sleeping in her room. Nothing seemed out of the ordinary. They finished senior year and went off to college. We never suspected anything. Every time they would come home for the holidays, my daughter brought a boy with her, and my daughter's friend brought a girl. Come to find out that the boy we thought our daughter was dating was dating the girl we thought our daughter's friend was dating. And the way we found out is because one day I got an invitation in the mail to a wedding for our daughter and her friend. I was so confused. I called my daughter, thinking there must have been some type of typo or something. No answer. I called the friend and I can barely ask what's going on before the friend breaks down crying and confesses that she and my daughter have been in a relationship for a decade, which is around the time we agreed to let her sleep in our daughter's room. My husband and I feel so betrayed. Finally, our daughter gets on the phone and says, "Mom, Dad, I know you're upset, and I promise we'll talk after the wedding and I'll explain everything." I said, "Okay, we'll talk after the wedding." I hang up. The next day she called me. I pick up and say, "Why are you calling me? I thought you didn't want to talk until after the wedding." She said, "We are, but I wanted to know what times you were available so we could go get measured for our dresses." And I said, "What do you mean we? You don't think that your father and I are going to your wedding, do you? You lied to us for 10 years for no reason, and you expect us just automatically to disregard that? We'll talk after the wedding." I haven't spoken to my daughter since then, and the wedding is sometime this month. My husband and I have been getting many calls from family members on both sides, telling us that we're selfish for ruining our daughter's special day over something that happened 10 years ago. This wasn't a one moment in time thing like our family's trying to make it seem. It's not as if they slept together and then we found out 10 years later. For 10 years, they actively concocted and acted out this extra unnecessary facade where they had friends from their college pretend to be their partners. To what? Pull a prank on us? Laugh at our expense? Smile in our face as they abused our trust? Fine. But how can you just pop up with a wedding? No explanation, no apology. Just a nonchalant, almost indifferent, "Oh, I know we lied to you for 10 years, but just pretend like that didn't happen until I have my day, and then we can talk about how you feel or whatever." That's how it sounds and feels to me. I'm just so twisted up right now. You are the idiot. Set your feelings aside for the amount of time it takes to bask in the glory of what it's like to get your daughter ready for her wedding. Love on her, dote on her, praise her and make her feel beautiful and loved. You and her father should be there for her through the process and at the wedding. Once the wedding, reception, and honeymoon are over, have them both come to the house. Talk calmly and rationally and tell them both that you are very hurt that they thought they needed to hide their relationship from you, and that the only thing that would have changed would have been the sleeping arrangements. Not the idiot. This talk needs to happen before the wedding, not after it. If the daughter wants her parents' total involvement in and support of the wedding, she needs to grow up and talk to them about why she's been lying to them for a decade. They are starting a new chapter in their life, and do they want to start it with this lie/deceit they perpetuated hanging over their heads? I agree. OP is not the idiot. The daughter lied to you for 10 years. She not only lied, but actually made up stuff and had random guys coming to your house pretending to be her other half. Lies, and more lies are all you have got. So I completely understand why you don't want to go. See, this whole story is so odd. I have the feeling that some parts are missing. For example, why would the daughter feel the need to lie? And why would she keep on deceiving, going as far as getting people to pose as boyfriend and girlfriend? And why would she send her parents such a surprise invitation? It sounds like she had some serious reason to be scared of her parents and/or her parents' judgment. Of course, it doesn't justify the lies, but it would help explain why she did what she did. My wife and I have a 2-month-old daughter, Alicia. We've had the piercing debate since she was born. She comes from a culture where it's normal, but I'm just not comfortable with a painful process like that and would prefer to wait until she's older so she can choose whether to go through that for herself. While we still hadn't decided, my wife went for a day with her family with the baby while I had a few things I needed to sort out. When I got home, the first thing I noticed was that Alicia had a pair of gold studs. I demanded to know what had happened, and she said they decided to make a day of it and get them done. I felt pure rage and immediately removed the earrings and threw them away. This enraged my wife, and she said removing them was totally disrespectful. She slept in the spare room last night and isn't speaking to me at all. As far as I'm concerned, I did the right thing. She got them pierced without asking me, or more importantly, asking Alicia. So I took them out because our baby doesn't need bits of metal sticking out of her ears. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot. I believe that a cultural norm that impedes another person's bodily autonomy is not a cultural norm worth following, especially ones that can cause long-term damage. Your wife knew your feelings on this and did it behind your back as a better to ask forgiveness than permission move. She can cry about disrespect all she wants, but it was disrespectful to you, the child's other parent, to do this behind your back, especially for something entirely aesthetic with multiple potential downsides if done incorrectly. Your daughter's well-being is more important than her having a shiny rock in her ears. I'm also questioning what kind of place they got her pierced at. 2 months is incredibly young to get piercings done, and chances are good it was done with piercing stuff, which can cause horrible damage to the ears. I know this firsthand, unfortunately. Piercing stuff also can't be properly cleaned. They aren't a safe option, period. Your wife needs to put aside her wants in favor of your child's safety and well-being. Everyone's the idiot. You and your wife did make a decision, and she did it behind your back. Removing a brand new piercing without taking precautions can be painful and potentially leave the baby's ears susceptible to infection if the holes aren't cared for properly. The only innocent here is the baby girl. This is incredibly wrong. Much lower chance of infection if you take them out ASAP. OP is not the idiot. I had my ears pierced as a toddler for cultural reasons. It doesn't bother me, although I wouldn't do it to my kids. But this is something that both parents need to agree on. If the parents don't both agree, the default needs to be status quo. In this case, if both parents don't agree to get her ears pierced, the default is no piercing. Calling you disrespectful is just beyond hypocritical. It's laughable. My son Connor, teen, is a high school junior, 11th grade to be specific. He started going to a new school after we moved, and he's been able to make a recent number of friends since he's sociable and is friendly. My relationship with him and his stepdad is good. He comes to me when he has an issue or when something is gathering him, but he still has his own secrets like any other teenager. About 5 days ago, I accidentally came across a letter that was in the process of being written and was placed on his computer desk. I was leaving a sandwich for him to eat, but that piece of paper caught my eye. I took a closer look and saw that he was romantically addressing someone, so I left it alone, thinking he's probably seeing someone he likes. But later, his sister, 18, and I were talking, and she said the letter I saw was being written for Connor's female math teacher. I was confused. I asked her to elaborate, and she said mutual friends told her after he told them he is finding his math teacher attractive. I got concerned, especially upon discovering that his math teacher is 35 years old, and Connor has written other letters for her that involve deep language. I kept thinking, and after talking to a friend of his, I found that the teacher complained about receiving mysterious letters. I was afraid this would get him in trouble eventually if she found out. I told my husband and he brushed it off entirely, saying it's just an innocent teenage crush. But after I explained to him that those letters contained inappropriate language that could be considered harassment, my husband insisted I leave it alone and not let Connor suspect I knew anything about it. Otherwise, he would be mad and not trust me anymore. I honestly couldn't stop thinking about it and felt helpless because I was not sure who to talk to or whether I should even bring it up with Connor, because if this continues and his teacher finds out about it, he might get in trouble. OP, you're supposed to be parents teaching your child how to act in the real world. He is harassing a teacher with intimate letters. Your husband is failing as a parent, teaching him that no one will challenge his behavior, and you have the responsibility to intervene. This will lead to his expulsion from school when it's found out who is sending them. You need to talk with him and stop him. You're his parents, not his friend. If the relationship is so fragile that he won't trust you after this, there wasn't much trust there. I'd go one further. I'd confront him and make him apologize to his teacher. Frame it as a teachable moment as much as possible. Regardless of the outcome for Connor, the teacher deserves to know where the letters came from, that they are stopping, and there isn't a lurking stalker out there. Dude, as a teacher myself, you need to shut this garbage down. It's harassment, full stop. No arguing, no debating. Harassment. If I was getting intimate letters from a student, I could get fired or permanently lose my license to teach, ruining my livelihood and career if he chooses to lie and say she led him on, or something along those lines. Schools usually fire now, then ask questions later. You are jeopardizing her job because you guys don't want to teach your son how to act like a normal human being. He needs to get over his obsession or learn to tone it down and respect your boundaries. My husband and I, 30, 27 female, got married last month and had a small and wonderful wedding. 2 weeks before the wedding, my best friend / maid of honors, 28 female, boyfriend 27, asked if it would be okay to propose during my reception. I first told him how thrilled I was that he was proposing to my friend and how excited she would be, but I really wasn't comfortable with him proposing during the wedding, at least as a public thing. He seemed totally shocked that I said no, which I can understand. He said that weddings are supposed to be about celebrating love, and that as his girlfriend's best friend, I should want them to be engaged after 11 years together finally. Of course I want that for them, but I didn't understand why it needed to happen during the 5.5-hour window of my ceremony / cocktail hour / reception. I was very apologetic and offered to help however I could with the proposal on any other day, but he was not happy with me. Since the wedding, I haven't heard from my maid of honor, which is probably the longest we've ever gone without talking. I had tried several times to get in touch with her and let her know at one point that I had something of her she had lost at the wedding. Never any response. I texted the other day, saying I would drop the lost item off at her house so she'd have it, and she finally responded. Apparently, during the after party at the hotel bar, maid of honor's boyfriend got very drunk and told her that she would have been engaged that night if I hadn't ruined his plan. She said she isn't exactly mad at me, but she feels like her future engagement is ruined and that I denied her a chance at happiness. I told her I was so sorry, and the conversation ended pretty awkwardly. Another mutual friend who knows what's going on says she doesn't love that he planned to propose at the wedding, but thinks I was the idiot ultimately for saying no. Not the idiot. You should reply back. A man that wants to marry you will make an effort to do so. He won't base your future together on usurping someone else's celebration. I'm very sorry that you think I ruined your chance at happiness. I'm sorrier that you think your happiness depends on a proposal from a man that is putting in the bare minimum of effort to plan a life with you. Yeah, it's been 11 years. I feel like if he really wanted to propose, he would have done it years ago. He almost seems like he knew OP wouldn't want someone else proposing at her wedding, so he set it up as her fault that he couldn't propose. And the fact that he then was childish enough to get drunk and spill it to her at the wedding is like a huge red flag that he's using any excuse to blame not being engaged on anyone but himself. He could have had a beautiful evening with her, then proposed afterward or at home, or anything but taking away from someone else's big day. OP, your friend is not being a good friend to you, not the other way around. If I were her, I'd be so embarrassed that my boyfriend tried to, number 1, hijack my best friend's wedding, and number 2, ruined a marriage proposal by throwing a tantrum. She's marrying a huge idiot, but she's invested 11 years in him, so it's easier to scapegoat you than to face that. Big time, not the idiot.